Today, I'll be telling you about my experience as an intern on the CALIPSO project for the past 10 weeks. Hi, I'm Ileana, and just to give you a little bit of background on me, I graduated high school in 2020, and then I took a gap year due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And I spent that year working as a junior developer at the software consulting company NimblePros. During that time, I learned the skills of communication and independent time management that are essential to any work environment, but especially to remote work. Now, I'm entering my second year as an aerospace engineering major at the University of Michigan. After I graduate in a couple years, I'm planning to stay there one more year to get my master's, although I'm not yet sure what I'm going to get my master's in. This summer, I had the incredible opportunity to intern virtually here at NASA Langley, drawing on those remote work skills that I developed during my gap year. My mentor, Lucy Lee, has been the most incredible mentor I could ask for, and she's really made it possible for me to get the most out of this opportunity and to really understand CALIPSO's ground system. For those of you who don't know, CALIPSO is the Cloud Aerosol LiDAR and Infrared Pathfinder Satellite Observation. As its name suggests, CALIPSO has both active LiDAR and passive infrared instruments, which allow it to give us insights into the vertical structure and formation of thin clouds and aerosols throughout the atmosphere. Scientists can then use that information to investigate the impacts of aerosols on our weather and climate. CALIPSO was launched in April 2006 alongside the CloudSat satellite, which gathers complementary data and flies in formation with CALIPSO in order to provide scientists with a more robust data set. This summer, I was able to work on 2 projects in support of the CALIPSO mission. I helped migrate the project's document archive to a new platform under a new organizational schema, and I tested the ground system software to ensure that its update to new hardware and updated support software did not affect its functionality. The CALIPSO project is older than I am, and some of the documents in its archive date back to the 1990s. In part because CALIPSO is the result of a decades-long collaboration between NASA Langley Research Center and the French space agency CNES. Its document repository stretches across multiple vendors, NASA centers, and international agencies, which led to some conflict and inconsistency in the naming and content of the documents. However, it is important that these documents be properly organized and accessible, firstly due to NASA policy, but secondly, and perhaps more importantly, so they can be accessible to future employees working on future projects, so that they can use these documents to learn how things were done on this project, so that they don't have to reinvent the wheel for their own project. We ran into a significant challenge as I was being brought onto the project, because as an intern there were some documents in the archive that I did not have permission to access. So a workaround directory had to be set up so that I could view only the documents that I was authorized to view. Within a couple weeks, during which I worked on my other project, this problem was resolved and I was able to get to work on the archive migration project. Before I came onto the project, my mentor had developed a plan for the migration process, as well as a file naming convention and file tree structure for us to use. Over the course of the summer, we had frequent meetings where we added to and sometimes revised the naming convention and file tree and debated how to name and categorize problematic documents that didn't fit well into one category or another. When I wasn't discussing the migration process and file organization with my mentor, I was analyzing documents, naming them according to our naming convention, and filing them away in the proper folder. The outcome was that over the course of the summer, I named and organized over 1,000 documents. When I wasn't working on the document archive migration, I was working on testing the CALIPSO ground system software, which processes the data sent down by the satellite. It uses the telemetry data to generate plots and reports that are used to monitor the health and status of the payload. It recently needed to be migrated to new hardware and updated support software. Since this update had the potential to break the code, the ground system software needed to be thoroughly tested before this update could be put into production. When ground system software is run, it produces a number of output files, which we use to verify the software's functionality. Using the test procedure that was already in place for previous tests of the ground system software, I thoroughly tested the software on the new hardware and support software. Since the previous test input dataset was out of date, we selected a new and robust set of test input data and ran the tests on that data. We then ran the same data with the previous hardware and support software and compared the output files between our test and baseline runs to verify that the updated software produced the correct output. I then used a spreadsheet template already in place from previous tests to verify that the expected files had been created and did not vary unexpectedly from the baseline. These tests successfully showed that the ground system software functions properly on the new hardware and updated support software. The one failure throughout the testing process, which you can see here, was due to user error. I forgot to properly clean up from a previous test before running the next one. However, this was easily fixed, and the next run of the test, as you can see, was successful. Ground system software is now in production on the new hardware and updated support software, and is currently processing real data from CALIPSO. My internship this summer was a successful learning experience for me and an opportunity to contribute to NASA's work, which is something I have admired my whole life. This summer, I made good progress on the CALIPSO archive migration, and I completed the ground system software testing to the point where it could be used in production. In the project plan I submitted at the beginning of my internship, I defined success for both of the projects I would be working on. I believe I have met the criteria laid out in that plan, and that I can count myself as having succeeded on both of these projects. Through working on these projects, I learned about project management and the way a large organization functions. The last company I worked at, I could count the employees of on one hand, so seeing the vast number of documents involved with coordinating such a large organization was very educational for me. I also learned about a different area of software testing that I had previously been exposed to. I've certainly written my share of unit tests, but I had never really worked on integration testing like what was performed on the ground system software. I also learned the value of making test data very clearly test data. We labeled our test data as 2025 data so that it would be clear that it was test data. And this actually ended up exposing a bug where another team's system was displaying test data unintentionally alongside production data. And because our test data was labeled as 2025, they were able to catch this bug and deal with it. I've really enjoyed my time at NASA this summer. In the fall, I plan to continue my studies at the University of Michigan. Beyond that, I hope to one day work in mission control to support NASA's manned missions. Gene Kranz, who I've looked up to since my parents first showed me the movie Apollo 13, said of mission control that you cannot operate in this room unless you believe that you are Superman. And whatever happens, you're capable of solving the problem. I'm not Superman, not yet, but I'm working on it, and this internship has added to both my competence and confidence. And I know that in a few years, I will walk into mission control as Superman, and this internship will have been the start of that. Thank you for listening, and thanks especially to my mentor Lucy for making it so easy for me to get the most out of this amazing opportunity. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them below. Thank you.